It slowly strips away from you everything that makes you individual. It slowly strips away from you everything that makes you human. And it's a devastating, devastating disease. My name is Natalie. I'm from Billings, Montana, and I'm 36 years old. I was born to a single mother, and we lived with my grandmother for the first 9 years of my life. I feel very fortunate that I had that environment because I definitely was loved, but unfortunately I wasn't really able to make a connection with either of my paternal parents. So my grandmother was kind of my primary caregiver. I was born with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, so I had some introduction to narcotic painkillers early on, like 9, 10 years old. I really began utilizing prescription drugs on a daily basis about the time I was 15. Narcotics were readily available in my home. I began insulfating, oxycodone, probably when I was 20 or 21. And that sped up the progression of my addiction intensely. I went from using about 10 milligrams a day to probably using 250 milligrams a day. I continued in college. I wrote my own curriculum. I graduated with honors. I held down the same job for 10 years. I bought a 5-bedroom home. I was a functioning addict for a really long time until I wasn't. And then I couldn't function at all. My disease became intravenous in nature. I started shooting OxyContin when I was probably about 25. And that addiction and that lifestyle made me feel so horrible about myself that I just continued to try to alleviate that by not having to feel those emotions, by not having to process that, by not having to deal with that guilt and that shame every day in my life. But the trade-off for that was that I didn't feel any good emotions either. I wasn't able to be compassionate. I wasn't able to really feel love. I wasn't able to ever be happy. Unfortunately, we don't just mask the negative things with addiction, we mask all of our emotions. And it was for many, many years that I did this. And I really just became a shell of a person. My experience with addiction was misery. My experience with addiction was laying in a bathtub full of blood, bawling and shaking and being terrified because I couldn't hit a vein and I was so sick. And the only thing on the face of the planet that could take this illness away from me was right there in my hand, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't have it. Every day I would wake up and I would think, I can't live like this anymore. I don't want to be like this anymore. This isn't me. The hardest part for me about being incarcerated was that my grandmother got ill right after I was arrested. And her illness progressed very quickly, and she passed away while I was incarcerated. And I never got to hug her again. I never got to kiss her again. I never got to tell her that I loved her again. I never got to attend her funeral. My grandmother had spent my whole life saying to me, "Why do I always have to take care of everybody else? What about when I get old and when I get sick and when I'm dying? Who's going to take care of me?" And my whole life I said, "I will, Grandma. I will be there." And I broke the biggest promise of my life. Sometimes we're incarcerated by circumstance, and sometimes we're imprisoned by our own choices in life. And I was imprisoned in this addiction that I could not break free from for so many years. And I'm not one of those individuals that chooses to be incarcerated. not by circumstance or by choice. My recovery is something I have to maintain every day. It's a lifetime process. For me, artwork is a huge way to express and compartmentalize those emotions that I don't know what to do with otherwise. The emotions that all my life I just wanted to rid myself of or mask myself off from. I feel like if one piece of my artwork or one statement I've made impacts somebody's life to the extent that they don't have to experience the extent of suffering I experienced, it will be worth the investment. I want people to understand that this disease does not discriminate, and you are susceptible like everyone else. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what your education level looks like. It doesn't matter how many years you hold down a job. This addiction will ruin your life, and those prescription pills in your cabinet are not benign. They are dangerous. They're dangerous for you, and they're dangerous for those around you who you know and love. Please do the right thing. Be responsible. Dispose of your medications. My life now is phenomenal. I'm ever so grateful for the chance I've been given and the chance I've really created for myself. I've had to fight for it, and it has been a lot of work, but I'm just eternally grateful.
You can help prevent prescription drug abuse in Montana. Resolve to always use the exact dosage, safely store your medications, dispose of unused pills, never share your prescription drugs, and start the conversation with others about the dangers of addiction. Find resources like safe disposal locations, conversation starters, and treatment options in Montana at resolvemontana.org and sign the pledge to show your support. This message brought to you by the Montana Attorney General's Office.